That's hardly unique to them. Many species have developed rotating projectile weapons. No, you don't understand, Catrix insisted, practically vibrating with mirth. They don't just make the projectiles spin. They make everything spin. Their aircraft? Spinning blades. Their power generation? Spinning turbines. Their entertainment? Spinning discs. And now, the ambassador gestured at the blueprint floating between them. They've made their latest infantry weapon spin 6 separate barrels just to shoot faster. The GAU-8 Avenger, Talara read from the specs. 30mm rotary cannon with a firing rate of... The observer's voice trailed off as their inner eyelids blinked rapidly in succession. That can't be right. Oh, but it is! Catrix was practically dancing now. 4,200 rounds per minute. They've made a gun that shoots so fast it needs to spin multiple barrels just to keep from melting itself. And get this, they built the entire aircraft around it. The A-10 Thunderbolt II isn't a plane that carries a gun. It's a gun that grew wings and learned to fly. Talara's antennae twitched. Surely this is some form of prototype or experimental design. Nope, they've been using them for decades. The humans actually nicknamed it the Warthog because it's ugly and incredibly difficult to kill. Rather like them, actually. Catrix paused thoughtfully, though I suspect they took that as a compliment. This is precisely why the Council advised against provoking them, Talara noted dryly. A species that looks at the laws of thermodynamics as more of a friendly suggestion than a rule tends to be problematic. Oh, please, came a new voice, dripping with silk-covered venom. They're barely out of their gravity well. What are they going to do, point their spinning death tubes at our ships? Both Catrix and Talara turned to face Supreme Commander Zextal as he glided into the observation deck, his iridescent scales catching the light of the nearby star. The Drachnid leader's reputation for arrogance was apparently well earned. With all due respect, Supreme Commander, Talara began carefully, the humans have demonstrated remarkable adaptability when faced with... When faced with what? Their own primitive limitations? Zextal interrupted. They're still using chemical propellants and kinetic weapons. Our shields can deflect anything they throw at us. Catrix and Talara exchanged worried glances. The ambassador's earlier amusement had evaporated entirely. Sir, perhaps you should review the incident reports from their conflict with the hegemony, Catrix suggested. The hegemony were fools who didn't understand basic tactical doctrine, Zextal dismissed with a wave of his clawed hand. Our invasion fleet is ready. The humans' resources will serve a greater purpose under Drachnid control. As the Supreme Commander swept out of the room, Catrix turned to Talara with all 4 eyes wide. We have to warn them. The humans? No. The fleet. 3 weeks later, Lieutenant Sarah Chen was having what she considered to be a perfectly reasonable reaction to first contact with an alien species. Are you fucking kidding me? She shouted at her commanding officer, who looked equally stunned as they stared at the massive holographic message floating above Times Square. They're seriously opening with "Submit or be conquered." What is this, a B-movie from the 1950s? Colonel Matthews rubbed his temples, looking like he desperately wished he'd called in sick today. Lieutenant, I'm pretty sure diplomatic protocol doesn't include shouting profanity in public, even if we're all thinking it. Sir, with all due respect, diplomatic protocol just got thrown out the window along with any chance of a peaceful first contact. Have you seen the size of their fleet? The colonel grimaced. The Drachnid armada was visible even in broad daylight, a constellation of massive warships that made aircraft carriers look like rubber duckies in comparison. Well, he said finally, I suppose we should be flattered they think we're worth conquering. Oh yeah, real honor, Chen snorted. I can't wait to tell my grandkids about how humanity's first alien contact was basically your planet or your life. Assuming we live long enough to have grandkids. Her radio crackled to life before Matthews could respond. All units, this is command. We have confirmation of hostile forces deploying to multiple major cities. Defensive protocols are now in effect. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Chen checked her weapon out of pure reflex, then looked up at the ships again. Sir, what exactly are we supposed to do against that? Our best anti-aircraft weapons are going to be like throwing spitballs at a battleship. Matthew's response was cut off by another transmission, this one on all frequencies and devices simultaneously. A smooth, cultured voice spoke in perfect English. Attention human military forces. This is Supreme Commander Zextal of the Drachnid Empire. Your pathetic weapons cannot harm us. Your primitive technology is no match for our advanced shields. Surrender now, and we will be merciful in our dominion over your species." There was a moment of silence. Then every radio channel erupted with variations of, "Oh, hell no." Chen looked at her colonel with a grin that could only be described as predatory. "Sir, permission to implement the fuck around and find out protocol?" Matthews returned the grin. "Permission granted, Lieutenant. Let's show these overgrown lizards why you don't talk shit about human technology." Supreme Commander Ziyextal was not having a good day. "What do you mean the shields aren't working?" he demanded, tail lashing in agitation as his bridge crew scrambled to make sense of the incoming data. "Sir, the humans—" The weapons officer swallowed hard. "They're not using energy weapons or standard kinetics. They're using depleted uranium rounds at extremely high velocities. The shields are calibrated for energy deflection, not things that spin really, really fast." "That's absurd. Their primitive projectile weapons couldn't possibly—" A massive impact rocked the flagship, sending crew members sprawling. "Status report. Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. They're using something called a GAU-8 Avenger? Sir, it appears to be some kind of rotating death machine that they've strapped wings to." Zextal's scales paled as the tactical display showed dozens of ugly, primitive-looking aircraft swarming his fleet like angry insects. Each one was spitting a solid stream of heavy metal death that somehow passed through their supposedly impenetrable shields like they weren't even there. "Impossible! How are they even flying in space?" "They're not in space, sir. We're well within their atmosphere. These are atmospheric craft." Another impact. Harder this time. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the surface." "Put it through," Zextal ordered, trying to maintain some semblance of dignity, despite the fact that his flagship was being torn apart by what amounted to very fast-spinning metal tubes. A human voice, female and dripping with satisfaction, filled the command center. "Hey there, Lieutenant Sarah Chen of the United States Air Force. Just wanted to let you know that we got your message about our primitive technology. We thought about it real hard, and we decided to respond with what we like to call the tea of friendship. How's that working out for you?" As if on cue, another barrage of depleted uranium rounds tore through the ship's hull, accompanied by the distinctive sound that had given the A-10 its reputation. "Bert!" "What kind of species?" Zextal wondered aloud as his ship began to list to one side. "Looks at the concept of rotary artillery, and decides to make it fly." "The kind that you really shouldn't have pissed off," came the cheerful reply. "Oh, and by the way, that whole submit or be conquered thing. Yeah, we're gonna have to decline. But hey, if you survive this, feel free to come back with better shields. We've got plenty more spinning death tubes where these came from." In the observation room of the Galactic Council's emergency session, Ambassador K-Trix and First Observer Talara watched the footage of the human counterattack with a mixture of horror and fascination. "I tried to warn them," K-Trix said quietly. "I really did." "About the spinning?" Talara asked, wincing as another Drachnid cruiser succumbed to the relentless barrage of extremely fast-moving chunks of metal. "No, about the humans themselves." K-Trix gestured at the display. "Look at them. They're laughing. Their planet is being invaded by a technologically superior force, and they're treating it like some kind of cosmic joke. A species that can find humor in their own potential extinction is not a species you want to underestimate." On the screen, Lieutenant Chen's A-10 led another attack run on the failing Drachnid fleet, her whoops of joy clearly audible over the command channel. "You know what the really funny part is?" K-Trix continued, mandibles clicking in what might have been appreciation. "The Drachnid shields would have worked perfectly against any sensible weapon. Energy beams, plasma, even standard railguns. But the humans? They took one look at the most advanced defensive technology in the galaxy and defeated it with what amounts to very enthusiastic metal confetti." Talara's antennae twitched. "Perhaps we should revise our technological assessment protocols." "Oh, definitely. And add a new first contact protocol. If you see a species solving problems by making things spin really fast, leave them alone. They're either going to destroy themselves, or they're going to be really, really good at destroying everything else." 6 months later, Lieutenant, now Captain, Sarah Chen stood at attention before the newly formed Interstellar Defense Council, trying not to smirk as she delivered her after-action report. "And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how humanity's first interstellar war ended in approximately 6 hours, with 0 human casualties and the complete surrender of the Drachnid invasion fleet. All because they assumed that any civilization that hadn't mastered faster-than-light travel must be primitive and harmless. One of the council members, a grizzled general, leaned forward. And the Supreme Commander? Chen's professional demeanor cracked slightly. Last I heard, Supreme Commander Zex Tal was petitioning the Galactic Council for asylum, claiming that humans are, and I quote, criminally insane spinning enthusiasts who cannot be reasoned with. Apparently, he's developed a nervous twitch whenever he hears anything that sounds remotely like, Bert! Can't imagine why, another council member muttered, prompting scattered laughter. The best part, Chen continued, now openly grinning, is that we've been getting messages from other alien species. Apparently the footage of our counterattack went viral on whatever passes for the galactic internet. We're now known as the species that defeats superior technology with aggressive rotation. And how do they feel about that? Most of them think we're hilarious. A few think we're terrifying. The general consensus seems to be that humanity is what happens when you give caffeine and opposable thumbs to a species with more creativity than common sense. The council chamber erupted in laughter, but Chen held up a hand. There's more. We've received formal requests from 17 different species for technical specifications on our rotating death tubes. Apparently, we've started an arms race based entirely on making things spin really fast. The general who'd spoken earlier shook his head, still chuckling. And to think, all of this started because some alien commander couldn't believe we'd build an entire aircraft around a gun. To be fair, sir, Chen replied, it is a really good gun. In the depths of space, aboard a diplomatic vessel heading toward Earth, Ambassador Catrix was updating their successor on humanity's peculiarities. And remember, they concluded, never, ever tell them something is impossible. They take it as a personal challenge. Is that why they're now working on something called Project Spinning Faster Than Light? The junior ambassador asked. Catrix's mandibles clicked in resignation. Then light travel was impossible because you can't rotate space-time itself. And now they're trying to do exactly that. Their leading physicist said, and I quote, hold my coffee and watch this. The junior ambassador was quiet for a long moment. Should we be worried? About them succeeding? Absolutely. About them being a threat? Only if you're stupid enough to invade them. Catrix's 4 eyes glittered with amusement. The humans have a saying, make the impossible possible by spinning it really fast and seeing what happens. They consider it both an engineering principle and a philosophical statement. That's concerning. Oh, it gets better. They've started naming their children after various rotating objects. I met a baby named Gyroscope last week. The parents said they're calling her Gyro for short. The junior ambassador's antennae drooped. I'm beginning to understand why Supreme Commander Zex Tal needed therapy. Indeed, though I hear he's doing better now. He's even started a support group, Survivors of Human Rotational Warfare. They meet every week to discuss their experiences and practice breathing exercises whenever someone says, Bert. As the ship approached Earth, both ambassadors could see the gleaming defense platforms that now orbited the planet. Each one was equipped with what appeared to be a scaled-up version of the GAU-8 Avenger. Because of course humanity's first line of planetary defense would be really big spinning guns in space. One last piece of advice, Catrix said as they prepared to dock. If a human ever shows you something and says, watch this, either run away or prepare to witness either a breakthrough in physics or a spectacular explosion. Sometimes both. Both? Both. They're very efficient that way. And as if to prove their point, a test firing from one of the defense platforms lit up the Earth's atmosphere, the distinctive sound of freedom somehow carrying through the vacuum of space. Bert! So, let me get this straight, Captain Sarah Chen said, staring at the holographic display with a mix of disbelief and growing excitement. You're telling me that we can actually make space itself spin? Dr. Samantha Rivera, lead physicist of Project Spinning Faster Than Light, PSFL, nodded enthusiastically. Her lab coat was covered in equations written in dry erase marker, because apparently paper was too conventional for someone who wanted to make the universe itself do a barrel roll. See, that's what everyone got wrong, Rivera exclaimed, gesturing at a complex mathematical model that looked like a tornado had a baby with a Klein bottle. They all assumed you needed to move through space-time. But what if, and hear me out, what if we just make space-time itself do the cha-cha slide? Chen blinked. The what now? You know, make it spin one way, then the other, creating a localized torsion field that essentially... Rivera paused, then grinned. You know what? It's basically a really big space blender. Of course it is, Chen sighed. Because why wouldn't we try to solve faster-than-light travel by turning the universe into a smoothie? Exactly. And the best part? We got the idea from watching footage of your A-10 runs during the Drachnid invasion. The way the depleted uranium rounds ignored their shields by essentially spinning too fast for the energy barriers to register? That got us thinking. What if we could do the same thing to the cosmic speed limit? Chen looked at the prototype device in the center of the lab. It looked suspiciously like someone had taken a GAU-8 Avenger, scaled it up to the size of a small house, and then wrapped it in enough superconductors to power a small city. Please tell me that's not what I think it is. Rivera's smile could have powered Las Vegas. Oh, but it is. We call it the Universal Rotation Device for Achieving Superluminal Speed, or URDASS for short. You named it URDAS? Well, technically it's URDASS, but yes. Because when we turn it on, it's going to show the universe exactly what humanity can do with sufficient rotation and insufficient common sense. Chen pinched the bridge of her nose. The aliens are going to love this. Ambassador K-Trix was having what their species equivalent of a migraine might be, assuming their species could get migraines. The latest report from Earth's scientific community sat before them, and every word made them question their life choices. They're doing what? First Observer Talara asked, all four arms wrapped around a mug of what passed for alien coffee. They're trying to achieve faster-than-light travel by making space itself spin, K-Trix replied, mandibles clicking in what might have been resignation or hysteria. They've built something called URDASS. Talara's antennae twitched. Do I want to know what that stands for? Probably not, but the really concerning part is that it might actually work. Their initial tests show that localized space-time does indeed respond to aggressive rotation. But that's impossible. The fundamental laws of physics were clearly written by someone who never met a human with access to coffee and precision engineering, K-Trix interrupted. Remember what happened the last time someone told them something was impossible? Both aliens glanced at the window, where Earth's orbital defense platforms, now affectionately nicknamed space spurts by the human population, gleamed in the sunlight. Point taken, Talara conceded. Should we inform the Council? And tell them what? That humanity has decided to solve the problem of faster-than-light travel by essentially putting the universe itself on a cosmic pottery wheel? They'd never believe us. They didn't believe us about the A-10s either, Talara pointed out. And look how that turned out. Supreme Commander Zextal's support group now has chapters in 3 different galaxies. Back in Dr. Rivera's lab, the first full-scale test of URDASS was about to begin. Captain Chen had somehow ended up as the military liaison for the project, primarily because she was one of the few people who could keep a straight face while saying URDASS in official reports. All systems are go, Rivera announced, her fingers dancing over holographic controls. Rotation sequence initiating in T-minus 30 seconds. Should we be concerned that the warning signs are in 17 different languages, including 3 alien ones? Chen asked, noting the numerous danger extreme rotation placards plastered around the facility. Nah, that's just legal covering our bases. The Arctarians insisted we add their language after they found out what we were doing. Something about warning future generations about human insanity. The massive device began to spin, slowly at first, then faster and faster. The air itself seemed to twist around it, creating visible distortions in space-time that looked like someone had taken reality and put it in a blender. Is it supposed to make that noise? Chen asked as a sound somewhere between a purring cat and a tap-dancing elephant filled the lab. No idea. We're in completely uncharted territory here. For all we know, this is what space sounds like when you tickle it. The distortions grew more pronounced, and for a brief moment, everyone in the lab could have sworn they saw their own backs. Physics textbooks across the globe simultaneously burst into flames, if only metaphorically. Energy readings are off the charts! Rivera shouted over the increasingly bizarre noise. We're actually doing it! We're making space-time itself do the Macarena! And then, with a sound that could only be described as swoosh-brr-pop, a perfectly spherical hole opened in the fabric of reality. Everyone stared at it in silence. Holy shit, Chen whispered. We actually did it! Quick! Rivera yelled, grabbing a nearby tennis ball. Someone record this for posterity! She threw the ball through the hole. It reappeared instantly behind them, having somehow traveled faster than light while spinning fast enough to qualify as a small gyroscope. Ladies and gentlemen, Rivera announced with the gravity of someone who just told physics to hold her beer. I believe we just invented the cosmic spin cycle. The news spread across the galaxy faster than, well, light, which was now technically possible thanks to URDASS. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. The Drachnid Empire's therapy groups reported a 500% increase in attendance, and at least 3 advanced civilizations had to completely rewrite their understanding of physics. Ambassador Catrix found themselves once again explaining humanity to increasingly bewildered alien species. But how? A representative from the Centaurian collective demanded. How did they go from rotating projectile weapons to making the universe itself spin? You're asking the wrong question, Catrix replied wearily. The real question is, why are we surprised? This is the same species that, when told they couldn't put a gun in space, simply made bigger guns and better spinning mechanisms. Of course, they'd apply the same logic to faster-than-light travel. But it doesn't make sense. Making sense was never part of the equation. Humanity's greatest achievements have always come from asking, what if? Followed immediately by, hold my beverage of choice and watch this. 1 month later, Captain Sarah Chen stood before the Interstellar Defense Council again, this time alongside Dr. Rivera. The council chamber was packed with representatives from every major spacefaring civilization, all eager to hear about humanity's latest violation of supposedly immutable laws of physics. And that's how we achieved faster-than-light travel, Rivera concluded her presentation, by making space itself so dizzy it forgot it wasn't supposed to let us go that fast. To be clear, one of the alien representatives said slowly, you created localized torsion fields in the fabric of space-time by spinning it very fast? Yep, Rivera beamed. Turns out the universe has a sense of humor. Who knew? And you named this revolutionary device URDASS? Well, we wanted to call it the Super High Intensity Temporal Spinner, but the acronym for that was deemed inappropriate for official documentation. Chen managed to keep a straight face, but only barely. The alien representatives looked like they were collectively reconsidering their life choices. In conclusion, Rivera continued, we've proven that not only is faster-than-light travel possible, but it can be achieved through the application of sufficient rotational force to literally any problem. We're already working on scaling up the technology for commercial use. God help us all, muttered Ambassador Catrix from the observation gallery. Oh, and one more thing, Rivera added cheerfully. We've theoretically proven that we can use the same principle to create artificial gravity, manipulate time, and possibly make really, really good milkshakes, though not necessarily in that order. The council chamber erupted into chaos as various alien species tried to process the implications of humanity having access to technology that could make the universe itself do loop-de-loops. Chen leaned over to Rivera and whispered, should we tell them about Project Dancing Black Hole? Let's save that for next month's meeting. I don't think the galaxy is ready to hear about our plans to make singularities square dance. In his therapy group on a distant world, former Supreme Commander Zex Tal listened to the news about URDASS with a mixture of horror and vindication. I told them, he said to his fellow survivors. I told them not to underestimate a species that solves problems by making things spin really fast. But did they listen? No. The group nodded sympathetically. And now? Now they can make space itself spin. What's next? Will they try to rotate time? Make gravity do cartwheels? Where does it end? It doesn't, said a newcomer to the group, a scientist who had witnessed the first URDASS test. That's the terrifying part. They've already started asking if they can make parallel universes spin into each other. Zex Tal reached for his stress ball, which was shaped like a small A-10 warthog. At least they haven't figured out how to make their rotating death tubes work in hyperspace. The scientist coughed nervously. They haven't, right? The scientist's silence was deafening. Remember when we used to worry about normal things? Captain Sarah Chen asked, watching as Dr. Rivera's team prepared for their latest experiment. You know, like alien invasions and making the universe spin really fast? Oh, come on. This is perfectly normal, Dr. Rivera replied, adjusting what appeared to be a collision between a particle accelerator and a disco ball. We're just going to make a few black holes dance. What could possibly go wrong? I can think of several thousand things, starting with everything and ending with the fabric of reality itself. Project Dancing Black Hole, officially designated as Gravitational Anomaly Yoking System, or GAS, was humanity's latest attempt to prove that anything could be solved by making it spin really, really fast. Even singularities. The theory is solid, Rivera insisted, her lab coat now decorated with equations that looked like someone had tried to teach calculus to a tornado. If we can make multiple micro-black holes rotate around each other in a precise pattern, we can create a stable quantum computer that operates on principles that would make Einstein spin in his grave fast enough to power a small city. You do realize that's not actually reassuring, right? Trust the science, Captain. Besides, we've got approval from both the Interstellar Defense Council and the Committee for Not Accidentally Destroying the Universe. Chen raised an eyebrow. We have a committee for that? We do now. Apparently, after URDASS, the aliens insisted we have some kind of oversight for our aggressive rotational experiments. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council's newly established Department of Human Scientific Monitoring, unofficially known as the "Oh God, what are they doing now" division, Ambassador Catrix was briefing yet another emergency session. They're doing what with black holes? First observer Talara's voice had reached a pitch previously thought impossible for their species. Making them dance, Catrix replied, somehow managing to sound both exhausted and amused. Specifically, they're attempting to create what they call a quantum conga line of micro-singularities. But why? According to Dr. Rivera's report, and I quote, "Because regular quantum computers are boring, and if we're going to break the laws of physics, we might as well make it look cool." The assembled aliens sat in stunned silence, trying to process the idea of a species treating fundamental forces of nature like a choreography challenge. "Should we stop them?" someone finally asked. "How?" Catrix countered. "The last time we tried to tell them something was impossible, they invented URDASS, and now we have ships spinning through hyperspace playing something called disco music." "Speaking of which," Talara interjected, "has anyone figured out why human faster-than-light ships keep arriving at their destinations doing barrel rolls? Apparently, it's more fun that way." Back in the lab, Project Dancing Black Hole was reaching its crucial first test. The device, which looked like someone had crossbred a ballet studio with a particle accelerator, hummed with enough energy to power several small countries. "Beginning primary rotation sequence," Rivera announced, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "Initiating micro-singularity generation in 3, 2, 1. The air itself seemed to twist as multiple pinpoint black holes sprang into existence. One no larger than a subatomic particle, but containing enough theoretical physics violations to make Stephen Hawking retroactively rewrite his doctoral thesis. "They're stable," Rivera exclaimed. "Now for the tricky part, making them dance." "I still can't believe that's an actual scientific term we're using," Chen muttered. The micro-black holes began to move in precise patterns, spinning around each other in what could only be described as a waltz of potentially universe-ending proportions. The quantum readings from their interaction patterns flashed across nearby screens, showing computational power that made traditional quantum computers look like pocket calculators. "It's working!" Rivera shouted triumphantly. "We're successfully computing complex quantum algorithms using dancing black holes. Quick, someone put on some music." "You can't be serious." "Of course I am. If we're going to make history, we might as well have a soundtrack." Before Chen could object, someone in the lab queued up "Stayin' Alive" by the Bee Gees. The black holes, as if sensing the rhythm, adjusted their rotation patterns to match the beat. Did they just sync up with the music?" Chen asked incredulously. "Of course they did. Rhythm is just another form of mathematical pattern, after all. Though I have to admit, I didn't expect them to have such good taste in disco." The news of humanity's latest scientific breakthrough spread across the galaxy with the speed of a tap-dancing tachyon. The headlines were predictably varied. "Humans make black holes dance." "Universe questions life choices." "Quantum computing gets groovy." "More at 11." "Physics community in crisis as fundamental forces learn disco." In his therapy group, former Supreme Commander Zex Tal was adding another chapter to his memoir. "They spin me right round. A survivor's tale of human rotational warfare." "First it was guns," he told his fellow survivors. "Then it was space itself. Now they're making black holes dance. Where does it end?" "It doesn't," replied a theoretical physicist who had recently joined the group after witnessing GAS in action. "They're already talking about something called Project Quantum Breakdancing." Zex Tal clutched his emotional support A10 plushie tighter. "What's that?" They want to teach elementary particles to perform synchronized rotation patterns. Apparently, someone suggested it as a joke, and now they're writing grant proposals. 1 month later, at the inaugural conference of the International Society for Rotational Physics, ISRP, Dr. Rivera and Captain Chen presented their findings to a mixed audience of human and alien scientists. And as you can see from these readings, Rivera explained, pointing to a graph that looked like a disco fever dream, the dancing black holes not only provide unprecedented computational power, but also demonstrate that the fundamental forces of the universe respond positively to sick beats. An alien physicist raised what passed for a hand. But why? Why not? Rivera countered. We've already proven that spinning things really fast solves most problems. This is just the logical next step, making the building blocks of reality itself bust a move. There's nothing logical about this, another alien scientist protested. That's where you're wrong, Chen interjected. Human logic operates on 3 basic principles. First, if it's not working, spin it faster. Second, if spinning faster doesn't work, make more things spin. And third, if all else fails, make the universe itself join the dance party. But what about the risks? The potential catastrophic consequences? Rivera waved dismissively. Oh, we've got that covered. We've installed emergency brake systems that can stop the quantum dance party if things get too wild. We call it the Party Pooper Protocol. The alien scientists looked like they were collectively developing migraines. The human scientists were already drafting proposals for teaching quarks to breakdance. Later that evening, as Chen and Rivera watched their dancing black holes perform what could only be described as a quantum version of Saturday Night Fever, a message came through from the Galactic Council. They want us to be more careful with our experiments, Chen read aloud. Apparently, our aggressive application of rotation to fundamental forces is making other species nervous. Did they specify what counts as too much rotation? Rivera asked, already sketching plans for something that looked suspiciously like a cosmic disco ball. No, but they did attach a list of things we're not allowed to make spin anymore. Black holes are not on the list. Rivera's grin could have powered Las Vegas. Well then, I guess Project Quantum Breakdancing is still a go. Want to help me teach electrons how to moonwalk? You know what? Why not? After making black holes dance the Macarena, teaching subatomic particles to breakdance seems almost reasonable. Somewhere in the universe, physics textbooks continued to spontaneously combust, and the ghost of Einstein was reportedly seen doing facepalms at near light speed. And in the lab, the quantum conga line of micro-black holes continued their dance, computing impossible equations to the beat of disco music, because humanity had decided that if they were going to break the laws of physics, they might as well do it with style. To be continued.